Hi, my name's Kevin Hicks. Welcome to my YouTube channel, The History Squad. Now, today's little film, our video, is in response to folks asking if they could have some more personal stories. Well, some of you won't know that I was actually employed as the Bowman at Warwick Castle. I was, in fact, the original Warwick Bowman. Warwick Castle, I was there for years and had the most wonderful time doing my shows, Agincourt, and pulling arrowheads out of the heads of kings and that kind of thing. It was really quite a great time. But this has got nothing to do with performing at Warwick Castle. This is quite something. When they asked me, would I go to the United States of America for a week to represent both the British Tourist Board and Warwick Castle, Madame Two Swords there. And I thought, well, what an opportunity. So packing longbow, swords, arrows, knives and all of the costumes, I flew off to a place called Minneapolis, where I was going to appear in the auditorium of the Mall of America. So, the Mall of America, the biggest shopping mall in all of the United States. And there were floor after floor after floor. On the top, there was a cinema, dining, all of these different things. If I remember correctly, I think there was even a bowling alley there. It just blew my mind. I'd never seen anything like it. It was so big that just one floor, if you walked around it, it was 1.15 miles all the way round. My job in the Mall of America was to simply dress as the medieval bowman, Kevin the Warwick Bowman, sometimes Robin Hood. I took a change of clothes and I would sit just off the main auditorium there with the British tourism desk and talk about our history and where you could visit, hand out leaflets, and occasionally I would end up on the stage in the main auditorium right next to the entrance in the middle of the Mall of America of a theme park. It was an amazing experience, but I get bored very quickly. So I would find myself in the Mall of America just as it was opening. The shops, in fact, were closed. You could get a coffee upstairs. And I noticed something that I'd never seen before. And it's a bit of a shopping mall phenomenon. The mall walkers. And these are groups of elderly people, or getting that way, like myself, I suppose, trying to keep fit. And it's safe, it's warm, it's secure. So they walk around the floors of the mall. And every morning, 7 o'clock, the place is full of these people. And I would grab a coffee from the security office and I would just sit and watch them. Some were fast jogging, some were slow jogging, some were just walking, but they were all with this purpose in mind to get round the Mall of America. I was intrigued by this and I found it funny the way they stuck to the walls. So I opened a fire door the one day, just wedged it open, just to see what would happen when the mall walkers came all the way around the mall. And they came to an open door and they just marked time and looked at the door. And I thought, this is good. This is good. And I walked home and shut the door. They then carried on. So the next morning it was another door and the same thing happened. And I kind of escalated this. But what I didn't realize was that the security cameras were actually watching. They watched me when I found a load of boxes and I made a barricade in front of the path of the mall walkers just before they all turned up. And they all came round the corner and there is a bit of a barricade and they just didn't know what to do. I found it hilarious because they were just, OMG, oh my goodness, what do we do? Then eventually one went round and then they all went round. And it was just, I got called into the security office and politely asked, Kevin, please don't mess with the mall walkers. Don't build barricades, don't open doors, just let them be. So I let them be. But I thought it was rather good fun. You see, that place is filled with people. And where we were sat, there was the aroma from Cinnabon, a cake shop that I'd never seen before. And the guy who was with me, he's an Anglo-American. I said, that stuff over there, I said, it smells delicious. And he says to me, he says, it is so sickly sweet. I says, do you want one? He went, no. I said, well, I've got to try one. So I walked over and I says to this lady behind the counter, I says, can I just have one little one, please? And she went, no. So you got to have a box of 4. So I came back with this box of 4 and I stuck my plastic fork into this cake, this bun, this Cinnabon, and I took a bite. It was so sweet, it set my whole mouth on edge. So I passed them round, and that was my experience with Cinnabon. So I'm sat there, Cinnabon is over there, and in front of me there was an escalator coming down, just a single escalator on its own, bringing you straight towards our desk. And I'm sat there with me leaflets, dressed like Robin Hood, and there's a commotion on the escalator. And I'm thinking, oh gosh, what's happened? And I could see, just coming into view, a woman had got stuck in the escalator. You had to be there. She was so round, and I just sat there aghast. What's going to happen when she gets to the bottom? And she was yelping and screaming. Just as she gets to the bottom, she's pushed out, falls flat on her face, splat. And there's her husband behind, tiny, thin little guy, and about 6 little kiddies. So the husband and the kids, they help mom up and dust her down, and over to our desk they come, and they see me. That day I was dressed as Robin Hood. Hi. And hello, how are you? I was just being Kev, and they had some leaflets and all that kind of stuff. And she then leads her family, almost in a charge, straight into Cinnabon. And I have never seen just one person consume 6 of those great big cakes. So my tour of duty with the Mall of America was complete. I hadn't shot anybody and I hadn't stabbed anybody. Result. So I said goodbye to the security staff and the management there, and back to the hotel where I had to pack up my gear. Easier said than done when you're the Warwick Bowman, because swords had to go into secure boxes, the bow, the arrows the same. But I packed it all up, and I managed to get myself one of those trolleys from downstairs, put all of my kit on there, and then had a good night's sleep. The next morning, I've just got showered and changed, as you do. I've got the TV on, and my kit is right by the door. I'm doing up my shoes. I'm going home, when I saw an aeroplane fly straight into one of the Twin Towers. You see, the year was 2001. It was the 11th of September. I just sat there stunned. Now don't forget, I'd been a British soldier, so I knew all about terrorism. I'd experienced it myself. And seeing that plane go in, I knew that wasn't an accident. What unfolded that day, we're all familiar with the story, the second aeroplane, but I was now trapped in the United States. We were told that we'd got to go to the Mall of America. We'd got to get our group of Brits together, and that was a mistake, because our gear was then locked securely inside the Mall of America. It was then evacuated because people were panicking, and apparently the Mall of America was the number 10 target on the terrorist list. We just didn't know what to do, so we came back to the hotel. We guessed we wouldn't be flying anywhere, so we rebooked our rooms, and I sat in the lounge. The lounge was full of shocked United States citizens. I watched the replay of the 2 planes going in, of the firemen, of the policemen, of the paramedics going towards danger, something I'd done myself, but not on that scale. It was incredible to look at the faces of those Americans there and see the tears. Well, the next day, the Mall of America is still closed, and most of the United States, from what I understand, was closed. I had no clothes. They were locked in the Mall of America for safekeeping. So I managed to find a sports shop. So I managed to get some socks and underwear, that kind of thing. And we found one restaurant, because now we were sticking together, a Mexican restaurant which was open, and they were amazed to see some customers, and they fed us really well. We were in shock as well. I think the world was in shock. And back to the hotel, and the next morning at breakfast I was told to go to the Mall of America. They were opening it, and they said, yeah, we want you to go on stage. And I said, you want me to go on stage? Yes. I said, why? And they said, well, people will come. People will feel lost, and they will radiate towards the Mall of America. And I think I made a comment, shopping is the new religion. And I put on my gear and I was feeling really strange. I thought, what am I going to do? Is there going to be anybody there? Well, I came onto the stage through the back curtain and the Mall of America was full. And in front of the stage, if I remember correctly, there were 3 tiers of people. And they were all crowding the balconies to see who's coming on the stage. And I took a big breath and I told the story of the Battle of Agincourt, the way I do. And I drew my sword and cried God for Harry England and fair St. George. And people are clapping and I got a mic. So I just says, this is terrible, isn't it? What has happened to us here? And you can see all these hundreds of people are just nodding. But I'd got a Stars and Stripes and a Union flag tucked in my back belt. And I pulled them out. And I said, you see these colours? I said, they're the same. And I held them up. And I said, these colours don't run. We'll fight this together. And I brought the house down. Oh my goodness me, there were guys saluting, others saluting, and people just clapping. And I just didn't know quite what to do. So I took a bow and got off the stage. Well, as I was getting off the stage, there was a US Marine there, a sergeant. And he says, do you think you Brits will stand with us while we fight this terrorism? And I looked him right in the eyes and I said, do you know, we've been fighting terrorism on our own for decades. I says, the problem you've got, Yank, I says, is you're going to have to rein in your CIA. Because they sponsor it, don't they? Oh, we had a conversation, very political, but at the end of it, he shook my hand. I've never forgotten my experience at the Mall of America. I've been back to the States a few times. I like it. I like the people. Generally speaking, they're pretty good. And those folks on that day, that fateful day in the Mall of America there, wow. Well, years later, I'm back in England. I am somewhere else as the Bowman when this woman went, oh my goodness me, it's him. And I spun round and there is an American lady, very sweet, came over, shook my hand, and I'm kind of thinking, oh dear, what have I done? She says, you're the Bowman of the Mall of America. I've never forgotten you. In my town, you're famous. Well, I hope you enjoyed that little film, one of my personal stories. Certainly brings back memories. Well, if you did like it, like, share and subscribe. And don't forget to turn on the all notification button. As you know, it does work sometimes. But before I go, a quick shout out to a couple of my Patreon members, Tom Holding and Stuart Walker. Thanks, guys. Thanks a million.